Greetings everyone. Welcome to Southern New Hampshire University, CJ 104. Joe Davis here. We're going to talk about Module 1. It's actually 1-3 is the assignment, and that's a review of the final project. Okay, what we're going to do is use the actual access to the live course shell. You should be able to find this okay if it's your first times using Blackboard or your first classes here at Southern New Hampshire, where there are announcements provided. But over here on the left-hand side, we go to the learning modules, and we're looking for learning module number 1. And so hopefully my apple will come up, and there it is. So here's module 1. And we open it up, and there's the description of what we're going to cover. Here are the learning objectives. Here's the module 1 overview, which you should read. But what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to 1-3, review of the final project. Okay, and what it's going to ask us to do is review the final project guidelines and documents to make sure you understand where we're going. Especially if this is one of your first classes here, or maybe this is new to you at Southern New Hampshire, you're going to write 3 papers during the course of the class. Those each represent the first 3 parts of your final project. Sometimes students say to me, gee, I have to write 12-15 pages in the last week. No, you're going to write 2 or 3 or 4 pages 3 times during the course, and then at the end write a couple of pages basically in summary, if you will. So if we come down here to our assignment guidelines and rubrics, and we open it up, and we come down here to the final project guideline and rubric. And so this is a document that you can open and download, and here is basically what you're going to do. You're going to learn about, as the overview says, that there are risks engaging in corrupt activities. It's not something new. There have been horrible cases in business and in criminal justice. And so we're going to look at a particular case study, and this is a real example of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department and a group of officers, as you can see right here, the 3 officers that are indicted. So there is a link to, the first one is a link to the website for Kansas City, Kansas PD. The second is the actual indictment, which you should probably download and read. And then there are 3 news accounts of what happened when these officers were indicted basically for stealing. They were falsifying search warrants. They would steal things from the homes they were searching for, and finally someone complained. The chief of police immediately notified the FBI, who set up a sting operation, and the officers were caught on videotape stealing. And so with that said, there are the facts of the case. The following guideline questions you're to keep in mind. What ethical considerations should be made when selecting officers for this unit? So what starts to happen sometimes is that you want to write about the story. And so some of you will write a page or 2 or maybe 3 retelling me the story. The story is only the basis for your analysis. The story is the basis for you to look at the literature using your research skills, using scholarly sources, using the university library, not using Google and those kinds of things, to see what it is that's written in the course syllabus, that's in the resources and materials available to you. And then we find these acts, these criminal behaviors. Why did they do it? Based on academics. Okay, describe the ethical responsibilities of criminal justice professionals in the decision-making process. That's not just the officers, it's the sergeants, the first-line supervisors, it's the middle managers, typically a lieutenant, a middle manager, it's the chief of police. Okay, so here's what you have to do. You have to assess factors that contribute to those unethical behaviors in personal and professional performance, evaluate criminal justice leadership decisions, what decisions were made at what levels that didn't provide these officers with appropriate training or appropriate awareness, or they were not screened out when they were hired, or finally that they were not found out when they were stealing. Okay, so now that's general stuff. Here are the papers that you're going to have to write. Specifically, the following critical elements must be addressed. Okay, so you describe the unethical behaviors evident in the case study and support your response with examples. Once again, that's not a terribly lengthy task. Then you assess the significance of the unethical behaviors of these criminal justice professionals, connecting them to the ethical responsibilities of each individual. That's the analysis. That's the meat of this answer. Okay? Next is contributing factor. Were they implicit or explicit? You should be able to understand that after doing the readings that may have influenced these officers, and so you're going to need to specifically discuss that. And then you're going to analyze how this conduct impacted the officers' personal lives. Then there's the discussion of the role of leadership. Describe the role of leadership within the unit, this SCORE unit as it was called, and within the department as it related to this specialized unit. And then your analysis is, where did this system fail? Were they improperly screened when they were hired by the department, screened for this job, not supervised on the job, didn't have enough training on the job? Why didn't anybody notice it? Why is there a culture of nobody blowing the whistle on them? And then evaluate what could have been done differently and describe the actions. So you're going to say supervision, outside audits, training, polygraph, whatever you come up with. Okay. Then in the last part, you're going to write about your practices. Put yourself into a position within this unit, working with these three officers. Given what you know about yourself and the expectations, describe the potential course of action that adheres to your own ethical standards. So it's still an evaluation here, and what risks are there. And then finally, in the conclusion, what are ethics? Why are ethics important in the daily demands of the profession? What's the significance of ethics in the public's perception? Okay, and so you have milestones. The first one is milestone 1. That is in week 2, next week. I'll do another one of these mini lectures for you just dealing with the analyzing of unethical behavior. Then in week 4, because in week 2 you turn it in, and that gives me, technically the university gives me a week to get it back to you. I will try to get it back in a couple days so that you can look at it, make corrections, revise it. My goal is for you to write the best paper you can, not to slam you with something out of the rubric and then send it off and that's that. Then milestone 2 is a short paper examining the contributing factors. That's in week 4. In week 6, I should back up for those in 15EW2, week 4, module 4 is the holiday break, the 9-day holiday break. So you could fall behind if you don't stay with it or get ahead of it in week 3. And then in milestone 3 is in week 6, and that's where you're going to identify the role of leadership. And then finally you're going to write your final paper. I believe there are at least 11 critical elements listed here, and those you need to understand. So what we're doing here in week 1 is read this over, make sure you understand it, maybe watch the videos, maybe look through the material so that you're getting a jump on it as you're now reading the material for week 1, that you're building on how you're going to use it in week 2. I hope that helps you. Next, like I say, for week 2 we'll go through another one of these mini lectures. Keep those cards and letters coming.